Hey everyone, Scott Sambucci here. We're going to kick off in about 2 short minutes. Today's live implementation session is about how to ramp up and scale up your sales process at your startup in 2020. So I'm going to put things on pause for just a minute while people are piling in the room, and then I'll come back in just a minute. Hey everyone, Scott Sambucci here. I see we got some folks piling into the room here. Carl is here, Santiago is here. I got some more people logging in as well. So listen folks, if you're on the audio right now, if you would, audio, I'm going to type the word audio check into the chat box. If you would be so kind as to help me out, help me help you. You're welcome, Santiago, loud and clear. Carl already knows what the question is. He's done this before. It's not his first rodeo. Sam is here. Gare is here. Dude, good to see you, Gare. Hope things are well in your world. We're just doing a quick audio and visual check. The other thing I'm going to do just quickly is go over here and share my screen, because there's going to be 2 different screens I'm going to be showing. First, I'm going to just go through a short bit of slides just to set the stage, and then we're going to jump over and do some real work. So I want to know if you can see the first slide of what we're going to talk about. Could you just let me know if you can see the first slide? You should see it says ramp up and scale up your 2020 revenue. Yup, says Carl. That's good to know. Thank you very much for doing that, Carl. Much appreciated. Jan is here as well. We still got some folks piling in the room. We're coming up here to the top of the hour, so we're going to kick off in just a minute, and we're going to get rolling. So in the meantime, I'm going to get to a link for everyone. So in the chat box, you should have received an email from me. And in that email was a link to a workbook that we're going to be using today. Daniel is here. Hey, Daniel, how are you today? Good to have you here as always. Vlada's here. Good to see you, Vlada. So in the chat box just a moment ago, I just put a link to a Dropbox. That Dropbox link takes you out to the workbook. So we did send out an email with a link to this Dropbox as well as a PDF attached. If for whatever reason you didn't get it, you didn't see it, or you missed it altogether, or you just didn't get to it, now's your chance to go ahead and click that link. You want to go ahead and download that workbook and print it out, because we're going to be using a lot of the stuff that we're going to be doing today is as much me teaching as it is you doing. That's why we call it an implementation session. So I'm going to do a quick pause here. I'm going to go off screen for just about 30 seconds, and then we're going to come back and kick things off. So give me just a second. All right, folks, welcome to today's live implementation session, Ramp Up and Scale Up Your 2020 Revenue by $1 million ARR or more. So this is what we call an implementation session. And the reason I call it an implementation session is it's not a training, it's not a webinar, it's not a presentation. What I want for you more than anything when you walk out of here in the next 75 or so minutes is to have some really clear steps to take action in your company with your startup in the next couple of weeks, even before the end of 2019. So I did a quick audio check and video check, and I know some other people have just joined the room. So I'm going to go over here to the chat box, and I just typed the word chat. So one of the most important things that we can do in the time that we have is for this to be a conversation. Would that be okay? Can we make that a conversation? If you're good with it being a conversation, not a presentation, not a training, not a webinar, if you're good with that being a conversation, write the word chat or write the word conversation in the chat box right away. I want to hear from every single person, and we're not going to go forward until I hear from every single person. And I can see the attendee list, so I know that you're here. So here says chat says Santiago, chat says Carl, chat says Jan. How about everyone else? Richard's here, good to see you. I want to make sure that we're going to make this a conversation more than anything, because I want you to walk out of here with really specific action steps, some aha moments, as well as some aha action steps by the time we leave out of here. Happy to be here, says Vlada. Good to see you. So good to hear from you. So one more time, I'm going to put in the chat window, just in case you have missed the email that we sent out this morning. This is the link, a Dropbox link to a PDF file. I highly encourage you to download that and write it out. In a couple of minutes, I'm going to go through some of the rules of how we're going to get the most out of today. Thank you, Sam. Chat, he says. Roger's here as well. Maria's here. Good to see you as well, Maria. And so I want to make sure that you walk out of here. Oh no, Sam is driving. Dude, we don't do that. Please don't chat. You're excused. Otherwise, unless you're just saying that so that you know that I'm gonna not calling you later on. But so good to be here. Just 2 hands on the wheel. Hope you're using earbuds, and focus, man, focus when I want to hear any screeches on the road. So let me go over here to share, we're going to basically run this, time that we've got together, this implementation session, really in kind of three main parts. Think of it as a 3-act play. Part number one, we'll take about 10 minutes or so, and I just want to kind of set the stage and level set as to why I'm running this implementation session right now this time of year, and also get really, really clear as to why you're here joining me at this crazy busy time of year. So that's part one. Part two is we're going to go through a couple of models, two specific frameworks in particular. One is called the idea to impact model, and the second one is called the repeatable revenue model. We call it the startup selling scaling sales model. And then after that's part two. Part three is where we're going to do an assessment of your startup. So if you look in the workbook, you'll see later on down the page, a couple pages in, there's an assessment. So I'm going to go through and we're going to help you assess exactly where you are with some of the key parts of your sales process so that you can build the right systems that you need in order to ramp up and scale out in 2020. So let's go over here to my little presentation deck. Present. Boom, I think I did it. I think we did it. So I'm always surprised for some reason when I can make this work. And I'm also a little bit proud. So we're going to talk about ramping up and scaling up your 2020 revenue. So for those of you who don't know me, I think pretty much everybody knows me here, otherwise you probably wouldn't be here. My background, as many of you probably know, and if you don't know, I've done sales, enterprise sales for now 25 years, and I've had to add a 5 on that recently. I used to say 20 years, but now I'm much, much closer to 25. And specifically within the startup world, I've been the head of sales for 3 different startups. One in the edtech space called Applia, which was founded by an economist named Paul Romer. Some people might recognize that name. He recently won the Nobel Prize in economics, and so worked with him to help build his company that we sold to the higher education market. Then I worked with a company called Altos Research, which is in data and analytics, specifically in the real estate market. And then most recently with a company called Blend. Some people recognize that name. It recently raised $1 zillion or something in the fall or in the spring of this year at close to $1 billion valuation. So with all 3 of those companies, I was the first non-tech person, the first non-founder, the first head of sales in all 3 of those companies, and led those 3 companies to their first millions in revenue. And so today, in the work that we do, I run a program called Startup Selling, and it's designed to help teams just like yours to start up, ramp up, and scale up their sales process. The way we do that is through a combination of live events. We do weekly coaching calls on Zoom. We have a member site that includes playbooks and frameworks and everything you need to build your sales playbook. And then, of course, we use Slack as well for daily communication. So it's a program that's designed to help you grow your startup from the early stage, the startup stage, through the ramp-up stage, and then get into the scale-up stage. We're going to talk about in a lot more detail in a couple of minutes. And so one of the things I like to ask is, you could be doing a lot of different things this time of year. How many people are feeling just a little bit overwhelmed right now this time of year? What's a word you might use to describe how things are this time of year? In the chat box, tell me how you're feeling in particular this time of year. Swamped, says Daniel. I know that'd be the case for you for sure. Stretched, says Carl. Tired, says Santiago. Yeah, I think we're all feeling a little tired. You're saying too few days. What's some other ways that you're feeling? So somebody's feeling swamped, stretched, tired, too few days. I'm going to hear from a couple other of you. I know who's here. So tell me how you're feeling right now this time of day. Wish we had 300 more days. Well, you do have 300 more days, Maria. They just happen to be in 2020. A lot of saying reflective. That's very wise. Everyone else is in the weeds worrying about their day-to-day, and here you've put yourself in a situation where you can be more reflective. I love that. I'm glad that you're able to do that. Looking forward to doing that myself in the next couple of weeks once the Christmas holidays roll around. So yeah, it's a crazy time of year. Everybody knows it's a crazy time of year. We're all trying to hit our end of year goals. Some of you might be trying to raise capital or have just recently raised, or you're looking to raise a round in spring of 2020. Some of you have got deals in the pipeline that you're trying to convert. You've got customers that you want to keep happy. You might be trying to hire and recruit and do all that stuff that startup founders have to do every single day. And it just feels even more compressed this time of year. And so despite all of that, today, this moment, you chose to be here with me to focus on how you can ramp up and scale up your sales in 2020. So first of all, virtual fist bump for doing that, because it would have been really, really easy for all of you to blow this off and say, maybe I'll just like ask for the recording to see if that's available and watch it later, knowing full well, I know and you know I'll send you the recording and you don't watch it, right? Instead, you chose to be here. So I mean that with all my heart and soul. Thank you for being here and thank you for making the time. And most of all, pat yourself in the back for making the time and being present so that we can get some really good work done today. So if you could think about, this is a question to you, the number one means what's one word that you could describe. If you could choose what's one outcome that you'd like to get from our time today, what would that be? What is one outcome that you would like to get from our time today? We're going to be looking at a couple of frameworks and models to help you ramp up and scale up your sales in 2020. So what does that mean for you? What's one outcome that you'd like to get by the time that we wrap up in our time that we've got allocated today? In the chat box, I'd love to hear what's something you'd like to get by the end of the day. Increase pipeline predictability, says Carl. I think we can help you with that. Nice. Who else? I want to hear from everyone. It's not okay to sit there and be passive. Lead generation, says Santiago. Kier says focus. Dude, I love that. Absolutely. Let's get focused. Let's get clear on what's important. Closing in relation selling. Closing in relation selling. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but closing sales is usually good. Selling is really good. Building relationships, also really good. So those are all good things. So we've got pipeline predictability, lead generation, focus, closing in relation selling. Roger's saying tactics on pushing people through the funnel. Yeah, pushing people through, or maybe we just figure out a way to open some doors, give them a choice. Do you want the blue pill or the red pill? And then just let them choose instead of forcing them through a funnel. How can we help them pull themselves through instead of needing to push them through? But absolutely know how you've been. Vlad is saying sales team management and KPIs. Absolutely. And I think once you've got some systems in place and you're clear about what needs to happen in each part of your sales funnel, then that helps you figure out exactly what those KPIs need to be. Richard's saying identify the right metrics. Yeah, for sure. Those are really, really key. Good job. You guys are doing an awesome job participating and making this a conversation. Thank you so much. Good stuff. So listen, a lot of you talked about, converting deals, getting metrics, focusing, lead generation. I don't know about you, but if you're anything like our clients, then there's probably nothing more frustrating when you're sitting there like, you've built a really important product for your market. And I use the word important specifically because it's not just a really great product or a really cool product. It's a really important product. Like you set out to solve a problem for your customers, for your market. Like you, the entrepreneur, you saw this problem. You said, nobody else is solving this the right way, or nobody's even solving it at all. And I'm going to go leave this cushy desk job, or I'm going to go leave this other company, and I'm going to spend my time and effort and life, put everything on the line to focus on solving this problem. There's probably nothing more frustrating to have built that important product, know that your customers are out there and that you could help them, but you're not getting the sales, you're not getting the scale, and you're not getting the ramp up that you're looking for. And at the end of the day, we've probably all seen some of these kinds of charts and data. This is from CB Insights, where they've tracked companies through the financing funnel. So going back about 10 years, they tracked over 1,000 tech companies that received seed capital. And this is the data that shows how many received a follow-on round. And by tracking those over time, what they found is, yeah, there was definitely some of those unicorns out there that exited over $1 billion. There was, more than a few that exited, in the 50 to 100 to $200 million range. But what is probably the most important number here is the one on the left, the 67% of companies that received a seed round of capital and they did not move through the funnel. They were either just self-sustaining, meaning they probably flattened out to some degree. So they're still a going concern. They're still solving problems for customers, but they're really not making the impact that they want to make, or they just flat out, they died. They didn't make it, right? And so what we want to do is avoid being one of those zombies. We want to avoid being one of the walking deads out there. And instead, we look at, again, like if you're like me, if you're like our clients, like you look at that problem as a puzzle. You say, look, I've got all of the pieces of the puzzle. I can see the puzzle. I know what I need to do, but what I don't know how to do is like, how do I get the puzzle pieces in the right place to solve the problem that's out there? And that problem is for your customers. The problem is around how you generate a repeatable sales process and how do you get some scale with your company. Because at the end of the day, I think all of us, we imagine ourselves and we want to be heroes. We want to be heroes for our customers. We want to be heroes for our team. We want to be heroes for ourselves, and we want to probably be heroes for the people that are most important around us, our family, right? So we're going out there, we're stepping out there, we're doing really, really hard things, and we want to be that hero. We deserve to be that hero if we do things the right way. And so one of the things I want to do is ask you, when, I asked you a moment ago, like, what is it, the one thing that you want to get out of here? And you talked about pipeline and closing deals and focus and the right metrics. When you think about where you are as a company, where you are as a leader, what are some of the things that you feel like are blocking you from getting to that place where you can be the hero? What are blocking you, especially from a selling standpoint? What are some of the things that you're feeling like, this is the wall that's right in front of me? Because if we know what that wall is, then we can start to figure out, well, how do we go around it or over it or under it or through it? Or maybe it's not even trying to get around that wall, but maybe we realize, hey, this wall is keeping me from going in this direction, but there's a clear path in that direction. So right now, when it comes to sales, what are you finding to be the biggest blocker for you? What are some obstacles that you're feeling when it comes to building a repeatable sales process for your startup? Santiago is saying experience and knowledge in sales. I think that's a pretty common one that we hear all the time, because most people that start startups, they tend to come from technical backgrounds, engineers, product people. And as much as they see the problem, they can build a solution. If you haven't been selling to the enterprise for 25 years, then it's hard to know, how do I actually get this thing sold to the people, and how do I solve that problem? Richard's saying it's hard to find qualified sales reps. Yeah, we need the talent. We need the team around us that can execute on the strategy. And if we don't have that talent and team, and if it's just us, for the only ones that can do the work, and we can't scale that out, then it's really hard to make the kind of progress impact that we want to make. Gary's saying repeatability. So yeah, we can get one deal, but how do we get the second and the third and the 10th and the 20th, right? Carl's saying he needs more leads into the pipeline. Daniel's saying the difference between velocity sales and enterprise sales. Yeah, velocity sales meaning sales that happen pretty quickly, and 2-3 months, get a lead, couple conversations, demo, conversion, versus enterprise, which a lot of us think as being 6 months or 12 months or even longer. Vlad is saying one of her blockers is increasing the deal size. So how do I make sure that I'm charging the price I deserve to charge, that's representative of the value that I'm creating? And sometimes that just means going to the same customers with a better story or the return on investment that they're getting from using our product. And it also means moving up market to sell to bigger companies. And if I sell to bigger companies, I'm solving bigger problems. I'm solving bigger problems, then I get to increase my deal size, right? So really good stuff. Love this. And so we're going to dive in here in just a second. Just a couple of quick rules as we go forward here. So number one, as far as technology goes, the only thing you're going to need is this screen in front of you and the papers that you assumably printed out. So you don't really need any other tech. If you've got your phone on or whatever, definitely suggest shutting that off. Secondly, we're going to do everything I can to keep on time. So, we're going to answer as many questions as I can. If, we get to the end of the time, we haven't answered questions, I'll do my very best to follow up with you via email or text or whatever else. The third thing is, and you're already doing a really good job of that, we have this saying about drop in the mask. I think for many of us, because we feel like we need to be that superhero every day for our team, for ourselves, for our customers, we have to wear this mask. We have to wear this suit of armor because we have to show this strength. And there's a time and place for that. But when we're in a learning environment like this, then it's really important to just sort of drop that mask. And you guys are doing a great job of talking about some of the things that are been frustrating or that are obstacles. So keep that coming, because the more open that you can be about things that are slowing you down, then the better it is for me so that I can help you. I also ask you to share it. So as we're going through and I'm asking for help from you, what's working, what's not, how does it sound, what would be an option for you? Get those ideas. Let's keep this as a conversation like we're doing it, because it's going to be better for you, it's going to be better for me, and you're going to get a much more memorable set of outcomes coming out of this. So, the other thing I hear a lot of times is like, oh yeah, some of this stuff is not so new. Like, I've heard this before. I know I should be doing this. I know I should be doing that. Well, there's one thing about something that's new or something that you knew, right? Because, you know, if you haven't implemented what you say you know, then you really haven't implemented. So even if you have heard some of the stuff that I'm going to share before, then I like to refer to this Bruce Lee quote where he says, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." And to know and not to do is really not to know. And so even if there is some stuff here that seems like, oh, I knew that already, well, then let's make sure you're putting what you already do know to action. And finally, just bring your best, bring your focus, bring your attention, which you're doing a really good job of so far. So let's dig in. So if you go over to your workbooks, and I'm going to switch my screen down to my iPad while you're doing that. Give me just a second. So if you go down to the workbook that I printed out, you'll see a model there that's called Idea to Impact. Let me get here it is. So it's the third page. So this is page 1 of your workbook. Page 2 is a notes page. Page 3 is Idea to Impact. And so what I want to do here is talk about the macro journey that all of you are on, because I think it's really, really important for all of us to get clear that individually, so as I'm drawing out this model, then I want you to think about for you and your startup, not everyone else that's here, not your friend that runs a startup, not what your investor tells you. It's like when you think about this Idea to Impact model, I want you to insert yourself and your company in this model and get really, really clear about where you are now in that journey, because that's really going to help us figure out what's important and what's next for you as you're building out a repeatable sales process. So when we think about Idea to Impact, what that means is, you know, every single one of you all started with an idea, right? You said, look, I've got, you know, here's the light bulb. I've got an idea. I've got an idea for a company. I've got an idea to solve a problem. And what we're trying to do is get to a place where we can make an impact. And that journey usually looks something like this, you know, that start of that J curve that we're all too familiar with. But it doesn't go right from idea to, hey, I'm going to make a huge impact in my market. That's the long term. That's 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road where you can really make the impact that you want to make with your product in your market and for your customers. And so to go from idea to impact, there's these 3 distinct phases that every startup, every company has to go through. The first stage is what we call the startup stage or the startup phase. The second is ramp up. And the third is the scale up phase. And this is, by the way, you should be drawing along because as you write this down, it's going to help you internalize this. And throughout that journey, from startup to ramp up to scale up, there's kind of, you know, we can kind of section these out a little bit. Each of those 3 phases have their own challenges, and they have their own obstacles that we, on that journey, like as the hero, we need to overcome this. A lot of you might be familiar with the hero's journey. I'm a huge fan of that concept because I think it's important for us to put ourselves in this journey as a hero and think about what are the obstacles that we need to overcome in order to get from the start of our journey to the place where we're truly making an impact. And in that startup phase, you know, there's really one key outcome that we're driving towards. And if you're in enterprise sales, you're selling B2B, that usually means getting to 10 paying customers, your first 10. Now, for some companies, it could be 3 paying customers. We have a client right now that's solving a cyber bullying problem. So they work with really big platforms where there's lots of interaction between the users. Unfortunately, there's lots of bullying, cyber bullying that happens. They're solving that problem for very large platforms, gaming platforms, social platforms. For them, getting to 2 or 3 customers helps to prove that they're in this, that they've got a what we call problem product fit, meaning that there's a problem out there around cyberbullying, and they built this product, and the product solves the problem. That's all we're trying to do in that startup phase. In those first 10 customers, those first handful of customers, we're trying to prove problem product fit. It's basically hypothesis testing, which is a concept you've probably all heard of before if you follow kind of lean startup methodology. right? The second thing we're trying to do is just get our first batch of customers, right? And we're trying to drive our first round of, our first set of revenue, right? So those first customers, a lot of times, I don't know, definitely the case, I don't know if it's the case, was the case with you or is the case with you. It certainly was the case with me for all three of the startups that where I was head of sales. So Applia, Altos, Blend. In all of those cases, those first few customers, they really kind of felt like kind of all over the map. There was like, I think about my experience at Blend, our very first customer was a small digital lending company based in the Bay Area. And they paid us their first check to us was $100. Our second customer was Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac paid us $400,000, that first customer. Both in the lending market, right? Totally different applications, totally different customers, totally different amount of money that we got paid, right? But the point for us was we just needed to get some customers. We needed to show that the platform was working. We needed to prove that yes, there are companies that have this problem, and we built this product that's designed to solve that problem. Additionally, for many of you, those first few customers, you're probably knowingly and willingly underpricing. You're like, God, they're only willing to pay $1,000 a month, but I really think we should be charging $10,000 a month. Or Vlada, you mentioned about increasing your deal sizes, right? It's like, well, those first couple customers are kind of like in the mid-sized sector, and they're only going to pay us $2,000 a month. But what we really want to do is move up market and sell to the Fortune 500s. But those first few customers are easy because they're in a mid-size sector. Easier to find decision makers, faster decision process. We might have some network there, people that we can go to first and sell to. So in that startup stage, we're just trying to find those first 10 customers, because what that does for us and for our company is it proves some viability. It proves that, yep, there's a problem. Yes, we built a product. There's a match, and people are willing to give us money. It's a viable going concern. Those first 10 customers teach us that, right? So once we get out of that phase and we move out of startup into ramp up, then the next thing we need to get to is go from viability to repeatability. And the outcome there in the ramp up phase is typically to get to $1 or $2 million of annual recurring revenue. So how many of you, if I ask you, well, I think you all know the answer, but I want to hear from everybody. When I say the goal of the ramp up stage is to get to $1 million, sometimes $2 million in annual recurring revenue, why that number? Where have you heard that number before? Who in your world has talked about $1 million in annual recurring revenue? Come on, somebody knows the answer. It's not okay to sit there. Expectations of investors, says Daniel. Yeah, Gare says investors, of course. And so the reason that investors tell you $1 million in revenue is the benchmark for getting a Series A. Back here is usually where we get like a seed round. Okay, you got some customers, you got some revenue, you've got a product that's working. You can generally raise a seed round there. But to raise a Series A round of capital, your investors are going to tell you, hey, you need to hit $1 million in annual recurring revenue. And it's not that they care. They actually don't care about how much revenue you're generating. They don't care if it's $1 million or 1.5 or 2 or 800,000. What they really care about is what do your systems look like? Because they know back here, if you are managing 10 customers at a time, you can sort of act like a waiter at a restaurant. You've got 10 tables that you're serving. Like, take this person's order, bring that person the check, ask them if they want dessert. Oh, would you like some more sweet tea? You can sort of work the room. You can do a lot of hands-on. You can fly to sites. You can go to customers. You can do some special custom integrations if you need to. You can sort of kind of keep 10 people happy with a lot of manual process. But to get to $1 million in revenue, the only way you're going to get to $1 million in revenue is to get some systems in place and some repeatability. And that's what investors are looking for. They're investing in the business. They're investing in the systems that you build, because they know that if they put money into a company that's got good systems, it will make those systems better. It will make that company grow. But if they put money into a company that doesn't have systems, then that money is just going to disappear. It's going to fall. It's going to fall through the cracks. It's going to disappear. And so we're going to talk about this specific part of the journey in a couple more minutes when we look at the 9 selling systems. But specifically what we need to do in this repeatability phase is look at our prospecting and lead gen. So thinking of it as a prospecting plan of action. We need to look at pipeline. So a couple of you mentioned about pipeline and converting deals. We need to look at our pipeline pull-through strategy, and we have to look at our paying customers. How are we pricing? How are we onboarding? How are we doing our customer success? How do we upsell, resell, retain those customers? Those 3 systems, prospecting, pipeline, and paying customers, those are the critical 3 parts of your sales funnel that need that repeatability in order to get to $1 million or $2 million in annual recurring revenue. And then finally, once you graduate through that phase, right, you get to that Series A. Well, that Series A capital is usually designed for you to then scale your company. And then the next 3 challenges in this phase are around having the right metrics. A couple of you mentioned metrics and KPIs as being a big challenge right now. So what are the driving metrics that are going to help our company move to that scale phase, to go from 1 to 10 in revenue, right? How many leads do we need to generate every day? How many calls do our salespeople need to make? Which conferences should we go to, and what should our conversion rates be from the booth? What is our conversion rate on demos to contract? What are our retention rates? What are our upsell rates? What are our resell rates? All of those things. All of those metrics are what's going to drive the behavior for the team that we're going to build, which is the second challenge that most companies have, which is now I have to hire a team. And we're going to do a second webinar later on today talking about the complete sales hiring system. So once you know the metrics and you know the jobs that need to be done, then we've got to find the right people, get them in place to take over those systems, to run those systems, to hit those metrics so we can scale, right? So we have metrics and hiring. And then the third challenge is usually around team management. So now I've got a sales team. How do I manage the team? I've never managed a sales team before. Never managed a VP of sales before. How do I know they're doing a good job? What do I do if they're not doing a good job? Do I remediate? Do I retrain? Do I fire? Did I hire the wrong person? Is it my fault, right? And so having a really clear view of these 9 kind of obstacles through that journey, starting with startup, ramp up, and scale up, is how you go from viability to repeatability. And then this third phase, as you might guess, is scalability. And when you think about scale, people talk about, you hear that 10x growth, and that scale phase is usually getting to 10 million in annual recurring revenue, and then obviously beyond. And if you do that, that's what gets you from this idea down here through to making the impact in the market that you want to make, right? So let me do a quick pause. We're going to dive into this middle section in just a moment. We're going to really kind of like zero in, zoom in on those 3 areas of prospecting, your pipeline, and your paying customers, and talk about some of the sales systems that you need to identify and then build to get repeatability. Before we do that, I'd love to hear from everybody as we move forward. So far in the conversation that we've had, what's been most useful for you? Think about your company, your customers, your product, your situation with where you are this time of year, and what we've covered so far in the first 30 minutes. What's been most useful so far? Go ahead and put that in the chat box. What's been most useful so far? It can be one word, it can be a phrase. You have to say the model I just went through. Tell me more about that. Why this model? I'm curious to know what about this model was useful for you. Gary's saying different phases, different focus. Yeah, and priorities. That's probably the reason that Yana was saying the model that we just went through, because I think, unfortunately, we hear, okay, build a product, get some customers, scale. That's kind of the 3-step process that your investors tell you to do. Like, okay, you need to get a product out there, you need to get some customers, now you got some customers, scale. It's like, that's not exactly how it works. Like, there's this lot of stuff in between, a lot of steps along the way to get from the startup to that scale up phase. Santiago saying scale up challenges, metrics, creating a repeatable system, management, hiring. Yeah, these are the most. This is why when we talk about, we looked at that chart or the data from CB Insights, how what ends up happening is that if you don't clear this first phase, if you don't get out of startup phase, then you just very quickly you're going to die out, right? You could possibly get to that $1 million range, but if you don't have the right systems to scale, then you're going to go ahead and level out. And that's the self-sustaining companies that we saw in the CB Insights data, right? So the only way to get true scale, the only way to get the impact is to continue on through that journey. And this is oftentimes a big blocking point for a lot of companies. They hit $1 million or $2 million in revenue, but they did it with still doing it with spit and bubble gum and duct tape. They don't have the right systems and they don't have the right repeatability, which is why they either can't raise capital or they get that first round of Series A capital, but they didn't get the follow-on capital because they weren't able to grow as quickly as they needed to. Carl's saying it's totally aligned with his experience. Very crispy. Thank you. Makes me feel like either a piece of toast or a piece of bacon, I guess. Daniel's saying if you don't have metrics around hiring management right, it seems this can show up in all three areas of prospecting, pipeline, and paying customers. That's right, and that's why we're gonna jump down to these three parts of your sales funnel, because we need to know how each of these systems work so that we can measure to the outcomes that we need our team to accomplish. And once we know how to measure and what we're measuring, that also tells us the right people that we should be hiring, right? Because it's not just, oh, I need more leads. And we'll talk about this a lot more in the sales hiring system webinar later on today. It's not just like, oh, I need leads. It's like, what are the activities that we know predictably and repeatably give us the leads that we need? How many connections do we need to make on LinkedIn? Which conferences do we need to go to? How many outbound calls do we need to do? What should be our conversion rates on those things? Richard's saying learning not to hire before you're ready. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that we see time and time again. I have a friend of mine, Brett Gilliland, Daniel, who's on this webinar, he introduced me to him. One of his running jokes is, how many first VPs of sales have you hired? And it's often the case, right? We oftentimes, whether it's a VP of sales or a salesperson that we hired with industry expertise or somebody with a network or somebody that said they wanted to work at a startup, we put them in that seat and they really are unproductive, either because we don't have systems to hand them to run or they're just the wrong person, right? So before you hire, you need to have these other systems in place so that they know what their job is every day. Esteban is saying, building out a smooth way to pilot the solution, creating steps to walk the customer through and show them how we could be helpful to reach their strategic objectives. Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of saying sad truth. We're going to skip the 4 forces of the entrepreneur's apocalypse for now. We'll leave that hanging like a matzo ball for you. But because I do want to make sure we spend time on the startup selling systems as it relates specifically to prospecting, pipeline, and paying customers. So if you scroll down a little bit or page down in your workbook, we're going to work on this 3-circle Venn diagram. I'm going to take a sip of coffee, not that I need it. Coffee with butter. That's my go-to. Butter coffee. Okay. So we're talking about the startup selling systems, and there are 9 systems that we need to have in this repeatability phase in order to have a repeatable sales process. And so it all starts, we're going to start right here in the middle, because what we really want to get out of this repeatability is to build the systems, to build the foundation so that we can scale, right? That's what we want, right? We're trying to get from the startup phase to the scale up phase. That's what we're aspiring to get to. We want to scale the company. And even more so, the reason we want to scale is because we want to make an impact, even more so. Like, scaling is really just a means to the end, which is the end being making an impact in our market for our customers every single day, right? And if I think about, okay, what does it mean to make an impact? Let's use that word, because I think that's even more relevant. Think about the impact. What does that mean? Well, it means that there's really 3 things you need in your business, in your company, in order to achieve impact. Number 1 is clarity. You need to get really, really clear about who your customers are, who you want your customers to be, and how you're going to sell to those customers. So there needs to be clarity. The second thing we need to have is control. We need to have a system in place to know that we have a process for selling, so that we're not at the mercy of the buyer's process for buying. We need to have a process for selling, so we're not at the mercy of the buyer's process for buying, right? So there needs to be a level of control around our sales process, and there also needs to be a level of control about how we're going to make sure that our customers are indeed successful, right? So there's clarity, control, and then the third thing, in order to make an impact, we need to have confidence. We need to have confidence to know that the systems that we build are in fact working, right? So those are kind of the core of this entire model. Like, we want to make an impact, and in order to make an impact, we need to have clarity, control, and confidence in our sales process. And so if we then come out to the circles, we said there's three big obstacles, or three big systems that need to be built and managed as part of a repeatable sales prospect. So we said number one was what we said is a prospecting plan of action. This is knowing what work are we doing to generate leads, attract the right customers, lead our market. We need to have a way of generating conversations with our target market, because if we don't have this prospecting plan of action in place, then we end up with no leads, right? No conversations. The second thing we need, we said, is a pipeline pull-through strategy. Pipeline pull-through strategy. This is simply, how do we then take a qualified lead and how do we march them through our process for selling? So we take them from qualified lead all the way through to the point where they're ready to convert to that third area, which is our paying customers. Right. So we said if we don't have a prospecting plan of action, then we end up in a situation where we have no leads. If we don't have a pipeline pull-through strategy, then we have no deals, right? No revenue. Can't generate revenue if we don't have deals in the pipeline. And if we don't get paying customers, then we end up with no future, right? There's only so much runway that we have, right? So we need a prospecting plan of action so we have leads coming in. We need a pipeline pull-through strategy so that we have deals and revenue getting generated. And we need our paying customers so that we can continue to move forward and have a future with our company, okay? So we said that there are 9 systems, 9 selling systems. So I'm going to break those down, explain each, three per area, 1, 2, 3. So there's going to be 9 of these outside the circle. And then what we're going to do is go through and assess your company on how you're doing so we know exactly where you need to be focusing over the next 3 to 6 months and into 2020. You guys good so far? Is this pace good? Can I get a thumbs up if I'm talking too fast, then listen faster? If I'm talking too slow, I can speed it up. Gary's saying good. Santiago says great, good. Thumbs up, says Carl. Thank you, Carl. Thanks, guys. Okay on speed, good. I just never know. Sometimes I'm on hyperdrive. Okay, so let's look at, just draw a little circle out there and divide it into 3 parts. So the very first thing we need to do as part of our prospecting plan of action is we need to have what we call funnel fillers. Funnel fillers. So these are specific activities that we know with predictability based on historical success are going to fill the top of the sales funnel. And so if you think about funnel fillers, there are, there could be 20, 30 different ways we could fill the top of our funnel. What are some ways that you can think of? What are some examples of funnel fillers? Let's write a few down. Funnel fillers. What are examples of some funnel fillers? Share those in the chat box. Cold calling. Yep, we can do outbound cold calling. What's another one? Cold emails. Yep. What's another way? Conferences. Excellent. What's another way? Events. What's another one? Contacts. Yeah, using your network. I love that, Roger. Well done. Referrals. Existing customers. What are some others? We've got 6 so far. LinkedIn groups. Hey, Harold, good to see you. Yeah, just within Richard, SEO. Yeah, so Google search, whether it's SEO or SEM. Looking at comments in the groups, says Harold. Outbound marketing. Yep. We mentioned LinkedIn, but even within LinkedIn, right, there's multiple strategies within LinkedIn, right? You could do groups, which we said. We could do connection requests, right? You can run ads. We just did a training last week. We had a digital agency, a friend of mine named Dev Basu came in and did a virtual training for our clients around LinkedIn ads, because in the last 6 months, they've done a really nice job of improving their ads engine. So yes, there's connections. Yes, there's groups. Yes, there's ads. There's commenting on posts, right? Sales Navigator is a way to search your leads. Partnerships is another one. Yes, Yane, to your question, the answer is yes. So yeah, generate content, podcasts, white papers. We're going to save those for just a couple of webinars. Certainly could be a form of funnel filler. Absolutely. So we have all of these ways we need to fill the funnel. And so I think one of the mistakes that a lot of companies make is they see all of these and they go, I mean, we just wrote down, what, 12 here or so? Like, okay, I got to do some cold calling and some cold emailing, and I have to go to this conference, and there's an event tonight, and let me check my network, and I wonder if customers have some referrals for me, and like, oh, LinkedIn, that's right, I got to do my connection request, and I want to check out some groups, and maybe I'll try running some ads this week, and oh shit, we have to do some blog posts and make sure they're SEO optimized for our outbound marketing campaign, and oh man, we should set up some partnerships with these companies because they could do referrals for us as well, and oh, let's not forget to do webinars. Just like, oh my God, it's exhausting. Right. So one of the reasons that a lot of times we're not able to scale our sales systems is that we haven't chosen 2 or 3 really specific funnel filling strategies that we know have proven to work, so that when we go to make the hire, we can say, hey, these are the activities we need you to do. Like, don't mess around on Facebook. Don't mess around. We're not going to go to these conferences this year. Instead of taking that money for conferences, we're going to invest that in doing LinkedIn ads instead, because we can find that these are more appropriate for us and have a higher impact, right? So the challenge is getting really, really clear on what exactly are the drivers of your sales, the very top of funnel sales activity that's going to fill your funnel, and getting specific to know, like, hey, these 2 or 3 are the ones that are going to help us get out of the startup mode and eventually get to that $1 million or $2 million in revenue, right? The biggest thing that you have to remember, and several of you mentioned this in your comments, is where you are now versus where you need to go later. One of the things we talk about all the time with our clients is focus on now, worry about later. If you're in the startup, coming out of the startup phase, you're in this ramp up phase, maybe you're at $500K a year, maybe you're already at $1 million a year revenue and you need to get to 3. Well, do you have to do all of these things to fill the funnel to get the 3 million in revenue? Probably not. You have to pick a couple things, execute really, really well on those, have a system for those. And once you have the system for those, then you can start handing it off to other people. So the very first thing is getting really, really clear on our funnel filling strategy. That's a key part of our prospecting plan of action. The second system is we want to think about our authority voice. So a couple of you mentioned podcasts, white papers, webinars in some respect are authority voice, right? You guys are coming here because I've got information and knowledge that I can share to you, right? And I have an authority voice in this very discrete part of how to run a startup. So whether that's a white paper, podcast, right? What are some other ways? Speaking on stage is an authority voice, being a guest on other people's podcasts, writing blog posts, and not just on your own site, but guest blog posts and articles, like creating an authority voice for yourself. Because here's the thing, I truly believe this, your customers, those people to whom you want to be a hero for, they are looking for a leader. They want to be led. Those early adopters, those people are looking for somebody who understands their problem in a way that nobody else has understood it before, and is solving that problem in a way that nobody else has solved it before. And it's our responsibility as leaders of our company, as leaders of a movement in a lot of ways, to share that authority voice, help our customers understand their problem, help them see, like, hey man, there's somebody out there that's picking up what I'm putting down finally. Like, finally there's somebody here who gets it. Have you ever had that kind of conversation with somebody? You're at a conference booth, somebody swings by, and they even tell you, like, yeah, I've been on LinkedIn, I've been following your company, and I've read your post, and man, like, finally somebody gets what we're trying to accomplish here, right? That's huge. So having this authority voice is so critical around your prospecting, because what that does is it helps you to attract the kinds of customers that are ready to take action sooner rather than later. We had this in one of our coaching calls this week. We had one of the team, the head of sales of one of the teams, is saying, look, how do I sell to the part of the market where, like, they're kind of slow to make decisions and they're not really into the tech and they're using lots of paper and pencil? Like, it's just really hard to get them excited about our product. And my answer to them is, you don't. Not right now. Not at this phase of your growth. Those are your later people. Your now people, the early adopters, the people looking for the solution. And it's our job as part of our prospecting plan of action to have really specific, critical points where people can engage with us and see how we're thinking about the problem, give them ideas, and help them think about the problem in ways they never thought about it. So whether that's, speaking on stage, having a podcast, being a guest, writing guest articles, writing books, that's a good point there, Daniel, thank you. Writing books, whatever that is, it's an opportunity for you to lead the crusade, be the leader in your market. And when you do that, then you're not chasing people around all the time. I don't know about you, I have a 7 and almost 8-year-old. And you guys probably know I do a lot of running. I do really long running races. I have no problem running. But chasing an 8-year-old, that's hard and it's tiring. I don't like doing it. Hey, Dad, let's race. Chase me. Catch me. Let's play tag. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. It's tiring, right? It's tiring when you're chasing your prospects. But if instead your prospects are following you, then you're just having a conversation about how your product solves their problem. And it puts you in a much stronger position when it comes to having those conversion conversations. So that's system number 2 when it comes to your prospecting. So number 1 is funnel fillers. Number 2 is authority voice. Number 3 is then having a really good and repeatable sales qualification strategy. Sales qualification strategy. So we could talk to lots of people and we could bring people into our funnel, but not everybody we bring into our funnel is a now buyer. Not everyone in our funnel is a buyer. Not everybody in our funnel is the right fit for us right now. Maybe we're trying to sell to hospitals and this company is an insurance company. You're like, I'd love to sell to you right now, but we really don't solve that problem for insurance companies right now. Right now, we're just focused on hospitals. But maybe that's a later thing. And being able to say no to somebody who looks like they could be a customer, but it's not your focus right now. Because again, whether you're at $1 million and trying to get to 3, if you're at 10K MRR and you want to get to 100K MRR, you don't have to sell that many new customers. You just have to sell to the right customers. And one of the things that's most important in this, and to round out that prospecting plan of action, is to make sure you've got a really specific lead qualification strategy. Because especially down the road, when you do hire your SDRs and your account executives, making sure that everybody's on the same page. What are the check marks that every customer, every lead needs to check in order for us to say, yes, this is a qualified sales opportunity? Because if we don't have that, what ends up happening? Right? You spend a lot of time on demos and people go, oh, that was really cool. Thanks so much. Can I get some logins? Or that looks great. Send me a proposal. And then you never hear back. Usually when deals go dark later in the funnel, you send proposals, you can't get them back on the phone. People ask for a contract and then for whatever reason they never sign it. It's nothing we should have done differently there. It's usually that we did something wrong higher up. We didn't qualify them the right way. So to round out the strategy around your prospecting plan of action, it's filling the funnel, having the authority voice, and then making sure that your lead qualification strategy is consistent across the board so that only the right deals are getting into your sales pipeline. So let me do a quick pause right there. What questions do you have so far? Or what's been most useful about this? Esteban's asking, is it better to have external authority voice or could it come from our company as well? I think both, right? If you have a podcast, then you can be a guest on some of these podcasts, right? If you write a white paper, publish it, get it out onto a partner website, have it downloaded from there. When I was at Blend and CoreLogic and some other, and Altos Research housing market companies, I used to regularly publish on Housing Wire. So it was a housing website, only people in the housing market cared about the articles there, but I would throw an article up there every once in a while, external validation of the concepts we were sharing. How important is it? I think it's useful. I don't think it's the only I don't think it's a necessary condition for authority voice. I think it's a sufficient, I think it's good, but you don't need to have it. I think if you're out there leading the crusade, then you're going to attract the people that you need to attract. So let's now that we've got our lead, we've got the prospecting plan of action. Those are the 9 or the 3 pieces around that. Let's go down to the pipeline pull-through strategy. So imagine your sales funnel, right? So you've got leads coming in, now they're qualified. What's next? Well, now they're part of your sales pipeline, and we need to be able to pull them through from qualified lead to paying customer. And there's 3 things we need to do there. The first one is what we call demo design, meaning that we are designing our product demos in a way that speak to the customer's problem specifically. So we're doing a live event in January for our clients, the 2-day event we run 3 times a year. And one of the things we're going to be doing for half of a day is working on product demos. And how do we tailor those product demos so they speak directly to each individual customer? So that when they see that demo, it's not, why is the button blue? Do you have this feature? Do you have that feature? What about that integration? What about that functionality? We're not trying to do the Harbor tour and show them 73 clicks of our product. Instead, we say, hey, I'm going to show you how our product solves your problem. And that all comes from having the right lead that's qualified, right? So as part of that, that's where deals can often die, because we might have a qualified lead, but if we fail to show the connection between our product and their problem, then they might go, oh, not for me. Looks cool, but not for us. When in fact it could have been if we would have done a better job of demoing the product. So demo design is one. The second is having what we call a buyer partnering system. Your prospect partnering, your buyer partnering. So once you get through that demo, there's all of these things that need to happen in order to go from interested to sold, right? You have the technical buyers that you need to talk to. You need to talk to procurement people. You need to talk to risk people. You need to talk to IT people. You might have to do a pilot. You might have to do a proof of concept. All of these things are going to require a level of partnership with a sponsor and really getting clear about the different buyer types that are your customers. Who is the economic buyer? How do we get an audience with that person? How do I use somebody else from my company to talk to the technical buyer? Do I get my VP of engineering involved to talk to the CTO instead of trying to run everything through me? So getting clear on this partnership strategy that after you get a deal that's in your sales pipeline, how do you turn that from a sales conversation to a partnership conversation? How do you create a web of communication between your company and their company to move that deal through your sales pipeline? And then the last thing we need to have is a set of what we call momentum maintainers. Look, we're all feeling it right now this time of year, right? Ping me in Q1. Let's pick this up in January. Oh, I really wish, but I'm running out of time, right? We need to have specific strategies in our sales pipeline pull-through strategy to know, how do we keep momentum going? Things like booking a meeting from a meeting. How do we rejuvenate a deal that's stalled? We need to have a toolkit so when deals do stall or customers tell us, maybe this is a Q thing, that we have a way of keeping that momentum, maintaining that momentum through the sale. Those are ways to pull deals through your pipeline. And then finally, the last 3 systems that we need to have around your paying customers. So we draw a little circle there. And the first thing is what we call why buy. So specifically showing how is our product a return on investment, not a cost. If you're hearing, oh, it sounds expensive, costs a lot, huh? That means they don't see the return on investment. You need to have a why buy strategy to show that when they make that purchase, they're going to get something back for this. The second thing we need to do is think about our pilots and our implementation plans. How do we roll smoothly into implementation and give our customers confidence to know that we're going to be able to implement the way that they need to implement when they need to implement? And then the last piece is our customer success strategy. So after we've got somebody implement it, how do we make sure they continue to use the product? How do we keep new people? How do we get new users on the system? How do we look for retention, resell, upsell opportunities? So those are your 9 systems that, as part of our repeatable sales process, and you think of this as context, like we're standing out here, you're looking at your paper, think of it as like you're standing above these systems. These are the systems that if you have these 9 things working, it's really, really easy to then say, oh, I need an SDR to do this work on LinkedIn, be able to go to the conference booth and manage an outbound selling campaign. That's how we're filling the funnel. Or, hey, in our lead qualification strategy, I've noticed nobody in our team is asking these questions. We need to ask these questions. If we don't ask those questions, then we're going to end up with a bunch of deals in the pipeline that really aren't qualified, and they're going to end up wasting our time. So these 9 systems, once you get those in place, then you can, as a leader of the company, you can then manage these systems. You can find the people to sit in those seats. And these are this is where you get the repeatability that you need in order to go from startup to the scale up phase. And this is that middle phase that everybody skips when you're talking to investors. Build a product, get some customers, scale. This is the stuff in between that you need. And even if you're doing $2-3 million in revenue, but you don't have this stuff in place, what you're going to find is it's going to be really hard to get to that next level. And that's why you end up leveling out, like we saw in that chart. You guys with me so far? Because we're about to enter Act 3. I said 3 acts. 3 acts. Act 1 was, why are you here? Why is this important? Act 2 was the 2 models, idea to impact and the startup selling systems. Now Act 3 is going down to the sales scalability assessment. Are you guys ready to do this for your company? Are we good to go? Now, at very high speed, says Daniel. Who wants me to fast forward? 2x speed, I'll do as fast as I can. And then on the recording, you can just slow me down. Gare says yes. How about everybody else? Are we good to go? Come on, peeps. Let's make this a conversation. All good? Yes, yes. I'm going at a very high speed. Yes, I am. Good to go. Get her done. Yes. Don't go faster, though. Okay, I won't go faster. Let's go down to the next page of your workbook, which is the sales scalability assessment. So you can see there's a score of 1, 2, 3, and 4 across each of these 9 systems. So 1 is in red on my screen. It's probably black and white unless you printed this in color. 1 is in red, means it's bad. 1 is bad. 4 is in green. 4 is good. 1 is bad, 4 is good, 2 or 3 in the middle. Okay. So what I'm going to do is read off some characteristics of a very sound funnel filling strategy. And then I want you to score yourself as to whether or not you feel like right now, are you a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4? We're going to do that for each of these 9 systems. We'll spend about 1 minute on each. And one thing that's really important, there's a scale of 1 to 4. There's no 2.5, 3.2. I'm kind of like a little more than a 3, not quite a 4. There's no middle ground here. The reason we have 1, 2, 3, or 4 is because there's no middle ground. You have to decide 1, 2, 3, or 4, because this is going to be important for when you score the overall sales scalability assessment at the end. So no half scores. Okay, 1 is bad, 4 is good. 4 means you're crushing it, killing it. This is like you're a model of what every other startup should be. 1 is like, oh crap, like this is disaster. 2 and 3, it's kind of like 2 is like, we're not terrible, but shit, we're pretty bad. 3 is like, we're getting there. A few nudges, we can be a 4. Hope you guys are clear on that. So here we go. Number 1, funnel fillers. So the question I'd like to ask is, do you have 3 specific lead generation sources that equally targets each of the buyer types in your target market? So if you think about the enterprise sale, we're selling to a target customer market. Within those customers, we know there's different buyer types, and we need to address and connect with each of those buyer types with funnel filling strategies. So if you think about your funnel filling strategy, how good do you feel about it right now to generate the right leads, the right buyers that are going to give you a chance to quickly qualify them or disqualify them out of your sales funnel? So as an example, you're a 1 if like you wake up on Monday morning and you've got like a lead in your inbox and you go, holy shit, we got a lead. That's awesome. That's a 1. That's like really bad. You don't want that. Like a 4 on the other hand is like, hey, at the end of the day, I can just go back and check our inbox and I know we're going to have a couple of leads, or I'm going to have some messages on LinkedIn waiting for me, or, hey, we're going to invest in this conference in 3 weeks. And I know we're going to walk out of there with at least 15 solid leads. That would be a 4. So 1 is like a new lead is a surprise. A 4 is, hey, we got the lead channel's working. It's predictable. It's consistent. I actually don't even have to worry about generating leads. I feel really good about getting leads into the top of the funnel. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just go ahead and circle that. Second one, authority voice. So think of this as like, answer the question, like, do you have a thought leadership content channel of some kind? Are you regularly publishing a white paper that your market wants to see? Do you have a podcast? You don't have to have all of these, which is like, do you have a content channel where your market is coming to you and saying, you guys are nailing this. Like, I hadn't thought about it that way. Thank you for writing that white paper. Or, hey, I listened to your podcast. It's really good. Every time I listen to it, I learned something new. Do you have that thought leadership channel? So for context, like, you're a 1 if you feel like, man, I can't even get people to listen, like open up an email, like, let alone think about white papers or podcasts or speaking at events, right? A 4, on the other hand, is like, look, I'm regularly on stage. I'm going to conferences and those conferences want me on stage because they know what we're doing is innovative, or our CEO is up on stage all the time. And when that person gets on stage, we get leads. That would be a 4. Something in the middle is like, okay, like occasionally we'll run a webinar and we get some leads, or, sometimes people tell us they've been following our stuff, but it's not very regular. That would be somewhere in the middle. Okay, lead qualification. So think about it this way, like, how are you doing lead qualification at all, but specifically, how effectively are you qualifying your sales leads before you even show them a product demo, before you move them into an active opportunity? So what I mean by that, a lot of times, for example, if you might get a lead from the website, somebody says, request a demo, they fill out the form, comes to your inbox, and the next thing you do is, hey, this is Scott. I'm here to give you the demo. If you're just doing demos and not qualifying leads at all, that's a 1. On the other side, think about the leads that are coming in. Are you at all, do you have some churn in the sense that some of the leads you're purposely disqualifying? Do you have leads coming in that you're saying, hey, like 10% of the leads, we're actually disqualifying them because we know they're not going to be good buyers for us? You actually want to have some level of churn, not a lot, but you want to have some that are actually leads that you can disqualify, because that means you're reaching enough of the market. So are you on the one hand, like doing demos no matter what, talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere? Or do you have a system in place that's lockstep, that everybody in your team knows that for our target customer, for a prospect to be a customer, they need to check these 4 boxes or these 5 boxes before we even show them product demo, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So let's go into sales pipeline. So demos, product demos, and meeting management. So when you do the demo, you're a 1 if you just get on the phone and say, hey, I'm here to show you the demo, and here are the 73 clicks. Here's how you log in, and here's this integration, and here's this functionality, and it's just what we call a harbor tour, right? Versus a 4, which is every demo is actually custom. Not that you customize the product, but every demo is specific to the prospect's problem. You've got multiple people in the room when you're doing the demo. It's not just one person that said they wanted a demo. You've actually done all of the work ahead of time to know that the decision makers are there, you've sourced their problem, and that demo is going to show them, this is how we're going to solve your problem. That puts you at a 4. That's like ninja stage. You guys doing, is this okay? Speed okay? Give me a quick thumbs up, quick check. Clear? Good, says Carl. Perfect, says Santiago. Good. Awesome, good, says Garrett. So next one down, sales pipeline, prospect partnering, close plans. How good are we, think of this as, how good are we at, once we get into that sales conversation, once we get that deal into the pipeline, how do we move that from sort of like, salesperson buyer to like, hey, this looks like this product could really solve our problem. Let's work together to push this thing through our buying process. Let's get procurement involved. Let's get the technical people involved. Let's figure out that implementation plan. So some examples of this, for example, you'd be a 1 in this prospect partnering is if like you do the demo, and after the demo, your prospects say things like, sounds good, send me a proposal, we'll get back to you, right? Because when they get back to you. They get back to you on the 19th of never, right? That tells you if that's the situation, you're doing demos and then flicking proposals and then you can't get them back on the phone, there's no partnership there, right? They might not even be a qualified lead. On the other hand, You're a 4 if you say, look, here's the demo, and they go, wow, this looks great. And you say, great, well, the next steps from here are we should talk to your CTO. We need to have a conversation with your risk officer. What are the next steps in procurement? What are the timelines involved? And your buyer is actually working with you. It feels like you're on the same team. You've now moved from selling to almost like project management at this point. There's really no selling as much as like going through and talking to each of the buyers that need to get involved, each of the stakeholders, each of the influencers, right? You're a 4 if it feels like that demo moves you out of sales mode and into project management, implementation mode. And then the last piece here, the third piece in sales pipeline, momentum maintainers install deal strategies. So how good are you at keeping your active deals in the pipeline? Meaning that, you know, after every meeting, are you waiting for somebody to get back to you? It's like after the demo, they go, this sounds good, we'll get back to you. And you go, okay. And then they don't get back to you. Or you send the proposal and you're sending 17 follow-up emails and they never get back to you, right? That's a 1 if you're just sitting there waiting. A 4 is you're in control of the sale. Coming out of the demo, you're actually proposing, these are the next 3 things we need to do, right? Somebody says, hey, we'll get back to you. And you go, that sounds great. Why don't we book a time right now? So people right now in Q4 saying, hey, let's pick it up in January. You go, cool. We're actually filling our calendar right now for January. Why don't we pick a time for the first week of January where you and your team and I can get back together and talk about implementation in Q1? And they go, you know what? That's a great idea. Let's get that booked. That's maintaining momentum through the sale. You're in total control from start to finish. Finally, at the bottom, pipeline pull-through strategy. The why buy analysis. So think of this as, are you collaborating with your prospects to show that their purchase is not a cost, it's an investment. Hey, we're gonna help you increase revenue by 20%. We're gonna help you reduce your cost by $300,000. When you implement our product, we're gonna remove that risk from your systems by X amount, right? Getting really, really specific. And even so much as having your prospect help you with that. They might even say, look, let's do a cost benefit analysis internally. We have this structure. Let's talk to these different people. When we go to the CFO to ask for the final approval of budget, and they're asking for $100,000, you can show them, hey, that $100,000 investment is going to get you $10 million in return over the next 30 months, right? That's having a really clear, strong why buy analysis. That's a 4. But if on the other hand, you keep hearing, sounds expensive, we don't have budget, I don't know how we pay for that, that costs a lot, they're telling you, I don't understand what the return on investment is. That's a 1. So the last 2, so pilot program, thinking about how do we, as part of your process, are you collaborating and creating a plan of action to help reduce that risk? A lot of times we're selling a new product to a market, to buyers, and there's some, like, and rightly so, some worry. Like, it sounds great. I don't know if this thing's gonna work. It seems like a big risk. I don't know if we can just go implement right away with everything. Cool. Do you have a strategy that helps reduce that risk? To say, let's start with a pilot. Let's do this over the next 6 weeks. Let's implement with this set of users first. Then we'll prove success, and then that way it's much easier to do the bigger rollout. This is all a control piece in your sale, right? Are you good at showing your customers how you can help them reduce and remove the risk of the purchasing decision? If you're really good at that, you're a 4. And if you're constantly getting blocked and you don't have any path forward other than trying to sell the whole thing or nothing, that's a 1. And then the last piece, implementation planning, you can put customer success into this as well. I just think of this as like a 30, 60, 90. Like if a customer today in your sales pipeline or your prospect today goes, oh, let's go, I'm ready. I want to sign the contract. I want to get rolling. I want to close this deal in Q4 so that I don't have to think about it over the holidays, and I want to get rolling in January 6th. Then do you have a 30, 60, 90 day customer success plan? Getting customers, getting the users onboarded, getting the integrations done, making sure that you've got quarterly business reviews set up with your customers to make sure you're reviewing how the implementation is going. If you've got that nailed, if you've got that customer success strategy, that implementation plan all ready to go, then you're a 4. If the customer says, on the other hand, like, hey, I'm ready to go, I just got approval from my boss, what happens next? And you go, I don't know. That's a 1. let me get back to you. Let me talk to the tech team and I'll let you know what we want to do from here. Like, we got to have a plan in order to keep control and in order to give our customers confidence that we know what we're doing. Okay. So, everybody good? We're good so far. Quick heads up, quick thumbs up. Good to go. Yes, says Carl. Who else? Yes, Santiago. Who else? Yes, says Roger. How about everyone else? Gear says yes. Harold says yes. Okay, Daniel. I just have low scores. That's okay, Daniel. We'll work on that. Sam says yes. Richard says yes. Awesome. Blada, are you still there? Who else is on the line? Esteban, how about for you? Yanni left. There's some other people still here. Let's get it good to go. Good. Okay, awesome. So the last thing we want to do is when you think about those scores, right, you can tally this up. You can either do it by section and look at an average or just overall. So just to sort of pick this, a lot of times when I do this assessment individually, you might see something on your page that might look something like, let's just say it looks something like that. What we can do is just sort of tally that score up if you want to, or just look for some trends. So when I look at this, what I'm seeing, I missed one. If your sheet looks something like this, what it tells us is we're actually not so bad down in the pipeline, and we're actually not bad on the pull-through, right? And the paying customer success. That part of it is pretty good, but where we struggle is getting the leads. Like, once we get the right leads, like, we can actually get them converted and we can make them happy. But the problem is we don't have enough leads. Okay, well, that's a place you wanna focus on. If on the other hand, maybe you're getting a lot of leads, but you're finding that your pipeline is just choking out, like nothing is converting. Well, that might tell you that maybe your demos aren't going the right way, or maybe it tells you a step up, you're not doing the right lead qualification strategy, right? Or if you've got lots of low scores at the bottom under pipeline pull through, or it should be, by the way, paying customers. Well, that if you're getting some churn, right, or you're getting people to the end of the process, but they're just not converting, then that might tell you that you need to do a better job of showing ROI. That you might need to implement some pilots, that you need to have a better customer success system. This is just designed to help you focus on the areas where you're the weakest, and make sure that you go back to the places where you're strong and document that stuff. Maybe you know that you're doing well in these certain areas, but it's not documented. You've got to document that, get it in the system, so that you can maybe hire somebody to take that over for you, right? So as we wrap up here, there's one thing I want to sort of talk through is what we call the 4 futures model. So, I want you to walk out of here with an action plan. So hopefully with this assessment, you're starting to circle in on where you are strong and where you are, where you need some help on that, and what you need to focus in on. And so the 4 futures model is really, really simple. And the way it works is we're sitting here now, today, and we can say there's this future state out here. And I usually like to think in 3-year increments. So year 1, 2, 3. So we're coming up to end of 2019. If we go to 2023, right? The 4 futures say there's, just for modeling purposes, 4 states, right? There's the ideal state, the okay state. Then down below, there's the ideal, okay, there's the trouble state, and there's disaster. And so we can just simply draw a line back from each of these 4, right? So back to today. So if we're below the line, that's obviously red. If we're above the line, that's green. And so the way the 4 futures line works is when you look at the processes that you have right now, and you're thinking about, how do I motivate change in the organization? How do I make sure I'm taking the right action? The way to think about this is say, look, let's say for now, based on my scores, I'm actually kind of like, I'm on this kind of troubled state. I have a couple 1s, lots of 2s, right? I'm in this trouble state. And I want to eventually, I got to get to that ideal state. Maybe in 3 years' time, that ideal state is I need to get to $10 million in annual recurring revenue, right? I want to raise a Series B in 3 years' time. That's your ideal state, right? The way that this 4 futures works is that the longer that you stay on that path without making a change, then the bigger the gap is between the trouble state and the ideal state that you want. So much so that if you wait too long, it becomes almost irrecoverable. But if you look at where you are now and say, like, I got to make some changes now, from here to here, change is actually like a decision. It's a few short changes to your systems. It's talking to your team. It's getting things documented. It's getting focused around the things that matter most, not all the busyness, but the stuff that's actually going to build the business. Because that leap is really, really small. So it comes down to the decision of getting these new systems in place if you haven't built them already. Because if you wait too long, it becomes, like we said, irrecoverable. So one of the things that that I wanted to do as we wrap up is, you know, as you've gone through, like we've gone through the models, we've done the assessment. Most of you can sort of think about where you are on which of these 4 lines based on what we just covered today. And one of the things that I want to do is help you build what we call a transition plan. So what that means is what we do is we get really, really clear on what are those 3-year results that you want to get to, and what are those 12-month results by the end of next year, by the end of 2020. Where do you need to be for your company? Now, for some of you, it's, hey, I just got to get to $1 million in revenue. For others of you, it's like, I got to get to $5 million in revenue. For others, you're already at 5, and you got to get to 10. Whatever those results are, let's get really, really clear on the results, because the more clear we are about the results, then the more specific the plan of action and the transition plan is that we can make. So we get really clear on results. Then part 2, we look at reality, where things are right now. Some of the stuff that you're doing really well, let's make sure we focus on that and use that. Some of the stuff you're not doing well, let's get really clear about that, so we know what we have to work with. And then part 3 is roadblocks. Anything that is getting in your way. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Anything that's getting in your way or slowing you down or stopping you, what's preventing you? What are your roadblocks that are preventing you from getting from where you are to where you want to go? And that will help you focus in on which of these key systems are the most important for you and your team to work on right now, so that you can get more repeatability and then scalability in your sales process. So if you want to get some help with that, I'm going to put a link into the chat box right now. And what that does, I'll show you on my screen. That's a Calendly link. And I've opened up my calendar for next week on Tuesday and Wednesday. I've basically unblocked the calendar for Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday afternoon. And then also, if you want to wait, until early January, just because of timing, you could do that. I definitely recommend sooner rather than later if you want to make some changes faster, right? But you can see there's some time blocks that I've opened up in the calendar. And if you want to get some help specifically on what you just discovered with your assessment, with your diagnostic, and you want to build a specific plan of action, then the first thing we'll do is just grab a short 15-minute call to kind of diagnose where you are and where you need to go. And then if it seems like I can help you with this transition plan that we just talked about, then we can schedule a much longer conversation and help you build that. So this totally pro bono. I want to help as many people as I can with this. I know some of you will want some help implementing the plan that we build for you. So that's just the way sales work. I know some of you will want to get the plan and do it yourself. That's fine too. But the only way to get the plan is to actually book the call and have me help you do this. So if you want to grab a time, you can just click that Calendly link, schedule in a time. We can grab that first call as soon as next week, so that I can help you start implementing on what you've discovered are your biggest needs right now. So I want to wrap up here. And as we're wrapping up, just as a quick round off, for each of you right now, take a second, and whether you write it down on your paper or type it out in a quick email, what I want you to do is think about what are 2 or 3 action steps that you can take right now based on what we just went through, that you can take right now that will help you get some more repeatability in your sales process. So we talked about idea to impact. Many of you shared that just getting this roadmap is really, really important and really useful. We talked about these 9 startup selling systems around prospecting, pipeline, and paying customers, and we did this assessment. So what are some action steps for you? And also in the chat box, I would love to hear what's been the one most useful outcome in the time that we've had today. We'd love to hear from everybody as we wrap up. What's been the one most useful outcome from the time today? What's either been most revealing? What's been maybe something something you've been thinking about, but now you've got a more solid view on that? Maybe it's just some visibility about systems that you didn't know that you needed, areas that you thought like, oh, we're doing okay there, but then you realize actually we're not. So in the chat box, as we wrap up, what's been one most useful thing for you in the time today? Daniel's saying the assessment across online systems is eye-opening. Cool. Sam's saying good to learn about the framework and to think about these problems. Thinking's good, action's better. If you want some help, taking some action on that and helping you construct your thinking. Happy to do that, Sam. A lot of saying a structured way to assess the current state. Absolutely. Like it's our job to be objective, and it's hard. There's nothing, probably very few things in this world are more emotional than like having a company, starting a company, running that company every single day. And it's our job to sort of like pull back out of that and think, okay, objectively speaking, how are we really doing? It might feel good, it might feel bad, but how do we know for sure? So I love that, Vlada. Thanks for sharing that. Roger's saying focus to document so there's clarity and repeatability. Yeah, this is, like I said at the start, like there's some stuff you already know. Like remember the guy, like I knew that. Yeah, we know it, but getting it down so we can see it in one place. Like, oh, okay, this is how this thought relates to that thought. Like, oh, okay, that's why we're having a hard time in our demos. Now I can kind of see it in one place. Carl's saying the details of which you described are point in the journey and why current pain points are important to grow through. Yeah, they're not just important, they're probably necessary, right? Growing pains, not just pains, growing pains, right? Richard's saying the sales pipeline section related to prospect partnering and stall deal strategy is most helpful. Yeah, I think, a lot of times you have the right person in the seat in that they're doing the sales activity. They're not afraid of the phone. They're doing the emails. They're doing the LinkedIn. They're getting the leads, right? Or getting the deals in the pipeline. But then like selling to enterprise is freaking hard, man. There's a lot of people that you have to deal with. There's a lot of bureaucracy you have to deal with. And so it really takes some systems to get clear on what is our process for selling. So we're not at the mercy of the buyer's process for buying. Santiago is saying, nice breakthrough. The selling system, very useful to making the assessment good. You're saying, help us to see the blind spots. Good. Cool. Well, listen, guys and gals, so good to have, that was a good save, wasn't it? It's mostly guys. Sorry for the women on this. I think Wada is the only woman here. So listen, I just reposted the link to Calendly. If you haven't already grabbed your time, definitely suggest grabbing the 15 minutes. I'm going to leave that calendar open for the next 2 days. I'm doing another webinar coming up at 12 noon, and then I'm going to leave it open through Friday, and then we're going to shut it off again because I'm going to devote that time to other projects if the times aren't booked. So I opened it up for now. So I definitely recommend booking in that time. If you book the time, then we'll keep the call. But if you come back at the end of the day, Friday or Monday to book, the times just may not be available because I'm going to reallocate that time to other projects that we want to get done with our clients by the end of the year. So make sure you do grab that time. Everyone, thank you so much for dedicating this time. Huge applause to you this month. I'd love to help you if there's a way for us to help. I mentioned at the start of the call, we have our Startup Selling Coaching Program. It's a combination of live events 3 times a year. You heard me mention that. We do weekly coaching calls on Zoom, the Slack channel, and we have an entire client library that helps with playbooks and frameworks. People often ask, like, okay, how much, like, what's the investment? How much is it? It sounds expensive. I can tell you it's between $2,000 and $3,000 a month to join that program. So just to give you order of magnitude, so there's no surprises. Should you want to talk about that, that's totally up to you. But I just want to make sure that we're both clear going in that it's not as expensive as people think. And if that feels expensive to you, then either you're not at a place where I can help you, or we should talk about how you're looking at the return on investment, because most of our clients get between 20 and 30x ROI on that investment. So really glad to have everybody on. We're going to sign off for now. I'll hang out on the chat box in case there's anything else. But in the meantime, we're good to go, and look forward to everybody having an awesome 2020. And let's make this happen. All right, see ya.